Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Adhyay 8, Sloka verses 19 to 36. Maya Javanika Achanam Agya Adokshajam Avyayam Nalakshya Se Mudadasha Nato Natyataro Yatha.
Hare Krishna. Being beyond the range of limited sense perception, you are irreproachable factor covered by the curtain of deluding energy. You are invisible to the foolish observer, exactly as an actor dressed as a player is not recognized.
Tatha Paramahansanam Muninam Amalatmanam Bhakti Yoga Vidyanadham Katham Pashyemahi Striya.
You yourself intends to propagate the transcendental science of devotional service onto the hearts of advanced transcendentalists and mental speculators who are purified by being able to discriminate between matter and spirit. How then can we women know you perfectly?
Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha.
Let me therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto the Lord, who has become the son of Vasudeva, the pleasure of Devaki, the boy of Nanda, and the other cowherd men of Vrindavan, and the enlivener of the cows and the senses.
Namaha Pankajnabhaya Namaha Pankajmaline Namaha Pankajanetraya Namaste Pankajandraye.
My respectful obeisances are unto you, O Lord, whose abdomen is marked with a depression like a lotus flower, who are always decorated with garlands of lotus flowers, whose glance is as cool as the lotus, and whose feet are engraved with lotuses.
Yatha Rishikesha Devaki Kansena Rudratichi Chiram Shucharpita Vimochitaham cha Sahatmaja Vibhu Tvayeva Nathena Muhar Vipatganat.
O Rishikesha, master of the senses and the Lord of lords, who have released your mother Devaki, who was long imprisoned and distressed by the envious king Kansa, and me and my children from a series of constant dangers.
Vishan Mahagnehe Purushad Darshanad Asat Sabaya Vanavas Kruchat Mrude Aneka Harathasstrato Dronastratah Chasmahare Abhirakshitaha.
My dear Krishna, your lordship has protected us from a poisoned cake, from a great fire, from cannibals, from the vicious assembly, from sufferings during our exile in the forest, and from the battle where great journals fought. And now you have saved us from the weapon of Ashwatthama.
Vipadah Santutah Shashvat तत्र तत्र जगद्गुरो भवतो दर्शनं यत् स्यात् अपुनर्भवदर्शनम्.
I wish that all those calamities would happen again and again, so that we could see you again and again. For seeing you means that we will no longer see repeated births and deaths.
जन्मैश्वर्यश्रुतः श्रुभिः एद्मान्मदः पुमान् नैव हर्ति जातुं वै त्वाम् अकिञ्चन गोचरम्.
My Lord, your Lordship can easily be approached, but only by those who are materially exhausted. One who is on the path of material progress, trying to improve himself with respectable parentage, great opulence, high education, and bodily beauty, cannot approach you with sincere feeling.
नमः अकञ्चन विताय निवृत्तगुण वृत्तये आत्मारामय शान्ताय कैवल्यपतये नमः.
My obeisances are unto you, who are the property of the materially impoverished, who have nothing to do with the actions and reactions of the material modes of nature. You are self satisfied, and therefore you are the most gentle and are the master of the monists.
मन्ये त्वां कालं ईशानम् अनादिनिधनं विभुं समं चरन्तं सर्वत्र भूतानां यन्मिथः कलिः.
My Lord, I consider your Lordship to be eternal time, the supreme controller, without beginning and end, the all persuasive one. In distributing your mercy, you are equal to everyone. The dissensions between living beings are due to the social intercourse.
न कश्चित् भगवान् चिकीर्षतं तव इह मानस्य नृणां विडम्बनं न यस्य कश्चिदयितोऽस्ति कहिचित् दैवश्च स्यास्मिन् विषमा मति नृणान्.
O Lord, no one can understand your transcendental pastimes, which appear to be human and so are misleading. You have no specific object of favor, nor do you have any object of envy. People only imagine that you are partial.
जन्म कर्म च विस्वात्मन् अजस्य कर्तुः आत्मनः तिर्यक् ऋषिषु यादसु तत् अत्यं विडम्बनम्.
Of course, it is bewildering, O soul of the universe, that you work though you are inactive, and that you take birth though you are the vital force and the unborn. You yourself descend amongst animals, men, sages, and aquatics. Verily, this is bewildering.
गोप्या ददे त्वयि कृतागसीदाम तावत् याते दशाश्रुकलीलाञ्जनम् सब्रम् अक्षं वक्त्रं निनीय भावनया स्थितस्य सा मां विमोहयतिभिरपि यद्भेबति.
My dear Krishna, Yashoda took up a rope to bind you when you committed an offense, and your perturbed eyes overflooded with tears, which washed the mascara from your eyes, and you were afraid, though fear personified is afraid of you. This sight is bewildering to me.
केचिदाहुः अजं जातं पुण्यश्लोकस्य कीर्तये यदोः प्रियस्यान्ववाये मलस्येव चन्दनम्.
Some say that the unborn is born for the glorification of pious kings, and others say that he is born to please King Yadu, one of your dearest devotees. You appear in the family as sandalwood appears in the Malaya hills.
अपरे वासुदेवस्य देवक्यां याचितः अभ्यगात् अचत्वमस्य क्षेमाय वदाय च सुरद्विषाम्.
Others say that since both Vasudev and Devaki prayed for you, you have taken your birth as their son. Undoubtedly, you are unborn, yet you take your birth for their welfare and to kill those who are envious of the demigods.
भारावतारणाय नान्ये भुवो नाव इवोदधु सिदन्त्या भूरि भारेण जातो ह्यात्मभुवार्थितः.
Others say that the world being overburdened like a boat at sea is much aggrieved, and that Brahma, who is your son, prayed for you, and so you have appeared to diminish the trouble.
भवेस्मिन् क्लिश्यमानानाम् अविद्याकां कर्मभिः श्रवणस्मरणानि करिष्यन् इति केचन.
And yet others says that you appeared for the sake of rejuvenating the devotional service of hearing, remembering, worshipping, and so on, in order that the conditioned soul suffering from material pangs might take advantage and gain liberation.
शृण्वन्ति गायन्ति गुणन्ति भिक्षुषः स्मरन्ति नन्दन्ति तव इतिहं च नः एव ते एव पश्यन्ति अचिरेण भव उपरमम् padambujam.
O Krishna, those who continuously hear, chant, and repeat your transcendental activities or take pleasure in others doing so, certainly see your lotus feet, which alone can stop the repetition of birth and death.
Hare Krishna, I apologize for all the mistakes I have done. Sorry.
My apologies as well. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Krishna. Thank you for the recitations. So we'll start in a few minutes. So I can share my screen, I think.
Yes, Prabhuji, you can. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. I'm just opening some of the reference pages and then we'll start. So, So I guess everyone can see the screen. Yeah.
Yes, Prabhuji, we can see.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So we are going to discuss 1832 from prayers of Queen Kunti today. So let's start. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhaktinashtaki Yam Pravrajeta Manupe Tamapeta Krityam Dvaipayano Virahakata Ajuhava Utreti Tanmayatayo Taro Vinetustam Sarvabhutardayam Munimanatosmi. So let's chant the verse. Kechidahurajam jatam punyashlokasya kirtaye yaduh priyasyan vavaye malayasyeva chandanam. Kechidahurajam jatam punyashlokasya kirtaye yaduh priyasyan vavaye malayasyeva chandanam. Kechidahurajam jatam punyashlokasya kirtaye yaduh priyasyan vavaye Malayasyeva Chandanam. So word by word translation. Kechid, someone. Bahuhu says, Ajam, the unborn. Jatam, being born. Punya Shlokasya, of the great pious king. Kritaye, for glorifying. Yadoh, of King Yadu. Priyasya, of the dear. Anvayaye, in the family of. Malayasya, Malaya hills. It should be translated Eva, but Eva also will do. Eva is as Chandanam, sandalwood. Some say that the unborn is born for the glorification of pious kings, and others say that he is born to please King Yadu, one of your dearest devotees. You appear in this family as sandalwood appears in the Malaya hills. Purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Because the Lord's appearance in this material world is bewildering, there are different opinions about the birth of the unborn. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that he takes his birth in the material world, although he is Lord of all creations and he is unborn. So there cannot be any denial of the birth of the unborn because he himself establishes the truth. But still, there are different opinions as to why he takes his birth. That is also declared in Bhagavad Gita. He appears by his own internal potency to re-establish the principles of religion and to protect the pious and to annihilate the impious. That is the mission of the appearance of the unborn. Still, it is said that the Lord is there to glorify the pious king Yudhishthir. Lord Sri Krishna certainly wanted to establish the kingdom of the Pandavas for the good of all in the world. When there is a pious king ruling over the world, the people are happy. When the ruler is impious, the people are unhappy. In the age of Kali, in most cases, the rulers are impious, and therefore the citizens are also continuously unhappy. But in the case of democracy, the impious citizens themselves elect their representative to rule over them, and therefore they cannot blame anyone for their unhappiness. Maharaj Nala was also celebrated as a great pious king, but he had no connection with Lord Krishna. Therefore, Maharaj Yudhishthir is meant here to be glorified by Lord. The Lord had already glorified King Yadu, having taken birth in his family. Although he is known as Yadava, Yaduvira, Yadunandana, etc., he is always independent of such obligation. He is just like the sandalwood that grows in the Malaya hills. Trees can grow anywhere and everywhere. Yet, because the sandalwood trees grow mostly in the area of Malaya Hills, the name sandalwood and the Hills are interrelated. Therefore, the conclusion is that the Lord is ever unborn like the sun, and yet he appears as the sun rises on the eastern horizon. As the sun is never the sun of the eastern horizon, so the Lord is no one's son, but he is the father of everything that be. Joy. So, Prabhupada ki jai. So, let's chant the Mangala Charana. Om Ajnantimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuromilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvikam Tam Sajivam Sa Advaitam Sa Avadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी ऋषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिन् इति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे राम राम हरे हरे अजानुलंबित भुजौ कनकावधातौ संकीर्तने पितरौ कमलायताक्षौ विश्वम्भरौ द्विजभरौ युगधर्मपालौ वन्दे जगत्प्रियकरौ करुणा अवतारौ व्यन्तः प्रविश्य मम वाचमिमां प्रसूप्तां सञ्जीवयत्य अखिलशक्तिधरः स्वधाम्ना अन्यांश्च हस्तचरणा श्रवणात्पगादीन् प्राणान् नमो भगवते पुरुषाय तुभ्यम्. So 132 we will chant the verse again. केचिदाहुरजं जातं पुण्यश्लोकस्य कीर्तये यदुः प्रियस्यान्वाये मलयस्येव चन्दनम्. Some say that the unborn is born for the glorification of pious kings, and others say that he is born to please King Yadu, one of your dearest devotees. You appear in his family as sandalwood appears in the Malaya hills. So it's a very fascinating, important verse for us, which reminds us of many revelations and confirmations from Bhagavad Gita itself, as Lord and his devotees. His Holiness Shiva Ram Maharaj has beautifully written a book about Sadhurudaya Mayam. Devotees live in Lord's heart, and Lord lives in devotees' heart, and there is a beautiful harmony. And Maharaj gives a very wonderful commentary on that. So this is what we can see here as well, that Queen Kunti is glorifying the Lord and basically corroborating what Lord has already given in Bhagavad Gita. She wasn't there on the battlefield, but still, it's a perfection of bhakti when you know all the scriptures. So that's what it is. So coming back to today's verse, Malaya Hills. Currently, as Kali Yuga is progressing, we hardly get sandalwood, chandan, from Malaya Hills, which is currently it is called Malaysia. Ashaya means the crux, which is what it is famous for, and Malaya is the name of the hill. So there is a song in, I think, Marathi, Malaya Giricha Chandanagandita Dhupa Tulada Vila. So there are so many songs. Even that song is composed very recently. It's basically the worship for the worship of the Lord. So there also it says Malaya Giricha Chandanagandita. So that we can see that it was famous till very recent times for the very proper, very fragrant sandalwood. Now there is a rubber plantation in Malaysia because people think rubber is more important than sandalwood. So there are two Malaya hills in Malaysia which are on that island where the sandalwood was very famous from. Nowadays, most of the Indians, they think that sandalwood comes from Mysore and all the Karnataka area. Australia is also growing like a lot of sandalwood. I think the scientific name of sandalwood is Santalum album, and there is one more called Santalum corba. Those have two different fragrances, but we won't get into that Latin naming of the of it. So, so there was a big demand for the sandalwood at in earlier days, in Vedic times, even till Dwapar Yuga, and even in early centuries of Kali Yuga, and that is why the main production of the hills in the Malaysia were herbs and sandalwood and all that. It's a natural cosmetic, as Prabhupada tells in several of his lectures. It keeps your body cool. It is in a mode of goodness, and everyone used to apply sandalwood on the body as a prasadam because it keeps you calm. It's fragrant, and it's one of the favorite fragrances of the Lord. So as we can see in Kali Yuga, even bathing every day, even once, has become a challenge for many people, especially in the Western world. So Prabhupada says in this particular context that Snana eva hi prasadam, the description of Kali Yuga in our scriptures, it says that taking bath every day, taking shower every day, that itself is, people think it's prasadam. It's something very pious. This is a basic requirement in the Vedic culture, and usually thrice a day or at least twice a day, people are supposed to take bath. If not twice, at least once in a day, you have to take shower or bath. Now we know so many things that are quite challenging in Kali Yuga. Maintaining the big extended family system is also very challenging. Marriage has become conditional, which is quite alarming in this age of quarrel and hypocrisy. Since the difficulties and miseries are going to increase as time progresses in Kali Yuga, our Prabhupada clearly instructs in this particular context, as well as in at several times, and our acharyas are emphasizing that our objective must be to surrender and to the lotus feet of the Lord and take his shelter eternally. So when in my childhood, I would like to tell you some of my memories. My mother's family, she was born on in a big family, and people were quite pious. We used to celebrate the Janmashtami every year for 10 days. So in the morning, people will start their chores, they will do the arti, puja, everything, and then they will do their daily activities. Evening time, have a early prasadam, and then there used to be kirtan, pravachan, and everyone will think that time to present their talents about the different types of instruments, Vadyavrinda, and singing different types of bhajans. So some um, artistic people used to compose bhajans to sing the glories of the Lord. And Aradhya Devata is, of course, Lord Krishna all the time. So, and then a lot of people used to come, and it was a celebration for 10 days. And actual on the day of Janmashtami, the whole village people used to come to take prasadam. And it was a beautiful, loving exchange. Big family. And there was never been a shortage of food or any resources or anything. It was a very beautiful harmony. And the reason was the focus was making sure that our devotional service was taken care of properly. So some of the family members, they dedicated their life just for puja, archa, bhajan, kirtan, everything. Some family members used to work and earn the money. We had our farm and cows and buffaloes and everything. So everything was taken care of. It was not a nuclear family and just separate families living in the big house. It wasn't like that. It was one family, and there was a good harmony. Obviously, when there are people, there will be some difference of opinions, but the differences were celebrated rather than discussed further. That's how it was. And later on, I can see that all the relatives who were related to that family, now they are separate. They have their own small houses, and then they are struggling. So, very simple reason. Why? Because the center changed. The main objective of devotion changed, and people started thinking that they will be happy if they look at their own selfish ideas. And very, very simple thing to understand here, that as soon as the focus changes from the Lord and devotional service towards our own ideas of selfish ideas of sense gratification, there will be misery, there will be struggles, there will be difficulties. And I can see that now from what I saw in my childhood and what's now, huge difference. The main thing we need to understand that the cycle of changing the body and going to the illusion of happiness and miseries will continue till we take the Krishna consciousness process seriously. And as in the context of what I told about my memories, this is very vivid example of that. And that's the reason we need to have the conviction of eternal life first. There is something from the scriptures which we have to have a firm conviction. When Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, "Na tadbhasayate suryo na shashanko na pavakaha yad gatva na nivartante tadhama paramam mama." There is my abode, 15th chapter. Lord confirms that na tadbhasayate suryo. There is no sun, there is no moon, there is no power. Power means agni, means fire. Na shashanko na pavakaha yad gatva na nivartante. Whomever comes to my abode, they never return to this place of miseries. So that conviction we need to have first. And it is confirmed in the scriptures, and Kunti Maharani confirms that in her prayers again and again. The person who is not into devotional service, that person, as per the scriptures, is considered to be a very ill person, very unwell person. What will unwell person do? Because if there is no devotional service, what person's objective is to have the sense gratification. And statistically, again and again, it has been proven that if a person is very rich, very good looking, man or woman, they have everything what they need, and once all the requirements of that sense gratification are taken care of, then that person has what to do now, because senses are not satisfied. They are like one of the examples in the fourth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam here, Maharaj Nabhi, when he extended his prayers through the sages, he says that when our senses are hungry, and what is the hunger of the senses? What he has, the desperation of the senses, he has compared is like if there is a forest fire in a forest, and if there are a lot of wild animals there, and if those wild animals, if they are helpless, if they are desperate, then how their situation, how their condition will be. That desperation is there in our senses, that I want everything, I want that. You can imagine the situation, that how those animals, what desperations to save those animals must be. Another example Shikshashtakam Prabhu gives is, our senses are like a monkey which is always restless. That monkey is drunk, had drunk the liquor, and then that monkey is bitten by bitten by a scorpion. So how restless that monkey will be? Our senses are like that. They're once they never get satisfied. They're always agitated. I want more and more. So the scriptures are saying that a person is ill person, very unwell person, who is just looking for sense gratification, and that monkey eventually commits suicide. And as I was saying, the scientific study or the statistical study says that when the person does not have anything to satisfy their senses, when their all avenues are taken care of or finished, exhausted, either that person goes mad, mentally disturbed, or they commit suicide, or they take the route of drugs and criminal activities. So either there is a devotional service, or they do other way around, in completely opposite direction. And here, that's why when we chant the Pranoti prayer for Prabhupada, we say that Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. What Prabhupada did, because the people in the Western world at that time, they were looking for alternative lifestyle, the sense gratification and some kind of happiness, and they were trying to follow some kind of meditation, some kind of gymnastics called yoga, and so on. And that was all Shunyavad, voidism or impersonalism. And the only objective is to surrender to the Lord, to follow the path of bhakti. And what Rupa Goswami has given that path of bhakti is in our Nectar of Devotion. We call it as Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, regulated devotional service. So here, Krishna, the Lord, is Aja, which means he is eternal. And we are also eternal. So that is the main conviction we need to have on this path of bhakti. If there is no death for God, That means there is no death for us. This morning I went for a funeral service. One of our family friends' mother passed away, and His Grace Mukundari Prabhu was there. He gave a Bhagavad Gita talk, and he was telling the same thing, that there is soul never dies, and he beautifully explained about the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, gave different details of the verses. So he was telling, "Na jayate mriyate va kadachit, nayam bhutva bhavitavana bhuyah, ajo nitya shashvatoyam purano, na hanyate hanyamane sharire." So if the garments, the sharira, is just a nashwar, it will be changing and it will be destroyed anyway. Dehinosminyathadehe kaumaram yauvanam zara. Our body changes from childhood to youth to adult, and then finally old age and death. So we need, here Prabhupada is emphasizing, and in this purport, that Lord takes birth for us. And what is the verse he's referring here? He himself establishes the truth, but still there are different opinions why he takes birth. And before that, and then he says, Prabhupada says that is declared in Bhagavad Gita. He appears by his own internal potency. What is the verse? Can anyone give me the reference? It's actually the series of verses Prabhupada is referring here. Anybody? So the first verse Prabhupada is giving the reference here is the famous one, Yada Yada Hi Dharmasya Glani.
Yada Yada Hi Dharmasya Glani.
Thank you, Mataji. What's the subsequent verse after that? I'm sure you know that. I'm 100% sure. It's Paritranaya.
Paritranaya sadhunam vinasaya chitam.
Yes, excellent. So yes, I know you all know these verses. It's for my purification. So thank you. So as Prabhupada is saying here, he appears by his own internal potency to re-establish the principles of religion, how we should live our life. And that's what Kunti Devi is emphasizing here. You take birth, you are unborn, you are eternal. But to protect the pious, Paritranaya sadhunam, protect the pious and annihilate the impious. Vinashayate dushkritam, impious is dushkritam. Dharma samsthapanarthaya, dharma is religion, samstha means to establish, to establish. Dharma samsthapanarthaya. Sambhavami yuge yuge, he appears again and again. That is the mission of the appearance of the unborn. So Lord appears with his own sweet free will, and he performs his pastimes, which are so wonderful, that it educates us, it is fascinating, it's entertaining, it's emancipating. There is everything in his pastime. It's a perfection. And then the important verse is Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo vetti tattvataha yaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti sorjuna. So Lord, what is Lord establishing in that particular verse here? 4.6. Okay, that comes later. We'll talk about it. So Janma karma cha me divyam. He says that divya means which is beyond your logic. His appearance and his activities is all divya. Logically, no one can understand the God, because God is beyond logic. Our tiny pea-sized brain, how much logic we can apply for the activities of the Lord? As Kunti Maharani says that Maya Jaunika Chandam Ajna Dhoksha Jamavvyam Na Lakshase Moodha Drusha. Moodha means fool, murkha. Nato Natya Dharo Yatha. If he is the organizer of the entire universe, logically no one can understand that. All the living entities with their material brain, how much logic they can apply, and that logic will contradict with themselves, their own ideas. So Janma karma chame divyam evam yo vetti tattvataha, the person who understands that the activities of the Lord are divya, are something completely divine. Evam yo vetti tattvata, tattva means principle. Tyaktva deham punarjanma, when that person leaves this material body, and this material body is not just a Prithvi, Aap, Tej, Vayu, Akash, earth, fire, water, air, and ether. That's not just a material body. The material body is just an instrument, but what that instrument is, who is acting behind that instrument? Our mind, intelligence, and false ego. That is our subtle body. So, as Lord confirms, Vamsanshi Jirnani Yatha Vihaya, Navani Griyani Yathoparani. So, in that, as we leave the garments, old garments, and wear the new one, in the same manner, Lord is telling here that he need not have to, he doesn't go through that process, but we have to, because our desire in that mind, intelligence, and false ego will compel us to go to take another body. And opposite is the Lord's appearance and disappearance and his activities. Janma karma chame divyam evam yo vetti tattvaha tyaktva deham punarjanma. So what body we have to leave? That mind, intelligence, and false ego, which is connected to the material world, that needs to be abandoned. And how to abandon that? That vitaraga bhayakrodha, the next verse after Janma karma chame divyam. So that's the condition. We have to stay away from all this kama, krodha, lobha, mada, moha, matsar, and then Lord will accept us by his own mercy, by his own free will. Because to enter in his kingdom, we need to establish the eligibility. We need to have that sincere, desperate desire. That eagerness has to be there. And that's why Prabhupada is saying, Maharaj Nala was also celebrated as a great pious king. So only piety is not enough. The devotion has to be there. Even if we are not 100% pious, but if we have a desire of sincere devotional service, that piety will automatically come. Yeah, because if somebody wants to drive the car on their own, without the instructor, without the rules, that person cannot go far. But if they follow the rules, learn it properly from the instructor, it's a lot quicker and better option. So let's come back to our main point here. So we were talking about, if God has no death, that means we also don't have death. That death is artificial, it's temporary. And Prabhupada, as you must have heard several times, he says that there is no need of wasting time and resources on so-called scientific research for making our life comfortable, extendable, or quote-unquote eternal. Nowadays, you must have heard in the news that there are many people or many so-called scientists, they are saying that, yes, we can tune things little bit and then life will be eternal. We can live forever. No person won't grow old. We can get rid of all the diseases by genetic engineering and so on and so forth. It's a completely foolish idea, because you can't stay away from miseries. The whole world is manufactured for what? Dukhalayam ashashvatam. It's the place of miseries and temporary. You can't make it eternal with some manipulation of the matter. That is for sure. All our qualities are coming from him and not from some so-called scientists. So that's what Lord has confirmed in the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Vibhuti Yoga, it is called as opulences of the Lord. He has attraction. We have attraction for what? For sense gratification. But that is a perverted reflection. Urdhvamulam adhashakam ashwatham prahuravayam. It's a perverted reflection. Lord also has attraction towards the opposite gender. His Alladini Shakti. But our attraction towards the opposite gender and Lord's attraction towards the opposite gender is completely different perspective. His attraction is his own creation. It's Alladini Shakti. It's the mood of servitude. He accepts the service and he gives the service. That purity, Vishuddha Sattva of servitude, and that is the mood of the Lord between him and his opposite gender, which is Prakriti, Purusha and Prakriti. And in our case, that is for our sense gratification, for our selfish ideas of envy, of control, and that's the huge difference. Perverted reflection. The love of the Lord is eternal, and so should be ours. Our love because of the material conditioning is temporary, and that's what the point here Prabhupada is explaining, that although he is known as Yadava, Yaduvira, and Yadunandan, etc., he is always independent of such obligation. He need not have to, but still he appears in particular family. He is just like the sandalwood that grows in the Malaya hills. Yeah. So that means to glorify his devotee, to glorify that family, to glorify that lineage, that means he wants his devotees to be glorified. And the original idea of serving somebody, that comes from the Lord himself, because he loves his devotees and he does that service by coming into the family of his devotees. As Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains again and again and again in emphasis, that Gopir Paratur Pada Kamalayor Das 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 Anudas. So Lord himself here confirms that I am a servant of the gopis, of my devotees. So all our qualities are coming from him, and that's the bottom line here. As now, the interesting point in this case is we want to become his servants or his devotees. So the example Prabhupada gives in this context is a secretary or a personal servant of a great person is not an ordinary person. So if you want to be his devotees, we have to have that qualification to be his secretary, to be his personal servant, to be his devotee. We need to qualify ourselves to be his servant, and we will get those qualities and opulences like him to use in his service. So for that we need and that is the ultimate state of bliss, happiness, as Mahaprabhu explains it very beautifully in his pastimes. One more verse in this particular context, for this particular purport, and what Kunti Devi is praying here is from Bhagavad Gita, is Maya Adhyakshena Prakriti Suyate Sacharashram. Lord says that everything is working as per my direction. I am the presiding deity who is controlling everything. Maya Adhyakshena Prakriti Suyate Sacharacharam. Chara, achara. Chara means moving. Achara means non-moving. Everything is happening in my direction. Hetum apnenu kamteya jagadvi parivartate. So that is it is the purpose behind that is all established by me. Hetum apnenu kamteya. He is telling Arjun. Jagadvi parivartate. It is happening all and under my direction. It's the purpose of creating and the way it is working, it is happening under my direction. That's what Lord is confirming in that particular in Bhagavad Gita. And hence Kunti Devi here is saying that unborn has taken birth. So he has appeared for a purpose, for a reason. And when he comes here, that with that purpose, because he is not bound by the rules of the material world, that is, and how that where it is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, which verse can anyone tell me? Avajananti mudha manushim tanumashritam. The fool, the mudha, will think that I am appearing here out of the material cycle. So avajananti mudha, because he is eternal, his body is eternal, his appearance is as per his free will, and that's why Lord says that the person who thinks that I am an ordinary person like them, they are mudha. Avajananti mudha manusim tanumashritam. My body is also spiritual. And where he resides outside and inside. Bhayantascha bhutanam charam charamevacha. Or another verse is Ishvara sarva bhutanam vriddhe arjuna tishtati. So he is there everywhere, within us and outside of us as well. There is a verse in 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Upadrashtanumantacha bharta bhakta maheshwara. Paramatma iti chapyukto dehesmin purushapara. So he says that I am the one who is giving the permission to fulfill the desires of the Jivatma. But the enjoyer of that body is not the Jivatma, it's ultimately me. So, Upadrashta Anumanta, he is Lord himself, who is giving the permission to fulfill the activities, what we want to do. So, what's the point of using our free will for the sense gratification? He himself has confirmed it time and again. And it is there in all the scriptures, every single scripture, whether it is our Sanatan Dharma scripture or Bible or Quran or Torah or any scripture. Lord has confirmed that. Everything is happening as per my direction. Yeah. The confirmation of that is when Dhruva Maharaj was, he went to the forest. I'm sure you all know the story. And he started his meditation because his spiritual master, Sripad Narad Muni, he said that now you have to meditate. How to meditate? The instruction was given by his mother. Initially, his stepmother, Suruchi, and then that was confirmed by his mother, Suniti. And then Dhruva Maharaj was meditating with that very intense, austere meditation on the lotus feet of the Lord. And then after, when Lord appeared, how he appeared? That he was meditating on the Lord within his heart. And suddenly Lord disappeared. And then Dhruva Maharaj opened his eyes. And he saw Lord Vishnu right in front of him. So that is the confirmation that when we meditate on the Lord within our heart, because he is there, and when he is satisfied, he will appear in front of us for the exchange for the loving exchange, and which is a confirmation in case of Dhruva Maharaj and many other great personalities. As we progress further in our Bhagavatam classes, we will be reading that anyway. So, as Kunti Devi says in the earlier verses, we all have been studying and discussing that he is the supreme puppeteer, and hence he is free to perform his show as he likes. Right? Namasya Purusham Tadyam Ishwaram Prakrute Param Alaksham Sarvabhutanam Antarbahiravastitam. So, the difference between his show And if we try to be puppeteer, that his show is 100% perfect, and our show and whatever we try to do to control something is always a failure, unless it is 100% dedicated for devotional service. And the example is our Acharyas, Prabhupada example. He was trying to establish the ISKCON, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada. He established, and even today we are glorifying their activities, their life, all our Acharyas. Yeah? So if we want to do something, if it is a devotional service, Lord will make sure that yes, it will be fructified, because He wants us to come back to His eternal abode. And that's why He glorifies the activities of His devotees. And here in this particular case, Maharaj Yadu and Yudhishthir Maharaj. Particularly Yudhishthir Maharaj there is a verse in, later on it will come, Apipalad Dharmaraja, Pitruvat Ranjayan Praja. So Yudhishthira Maharaj was like his father. Apipalad Dharmaraja, Pitruvat Ranjayan Praja. He always thought about his praja, because that is he's a Kshatriya, Kshatrayate iti. So he was looking after his all the praja, all his kingdom. Pitruvat Ranjayan Praja. Nispruha Sarva Kamebhya Krishna Padanu Sevaya. So that's the description of Yudhishthira Maharaj, that Nispruha Sarva Kamebhya. He had no desire for his own sense gratification. Why there was no desire for his sense gratification? The reason, because he was contented. He was completely satisfied. In what? Krishna Padanu Sevaya. Because he was serving the lotus feet of the Lord always, continuously. And that's why Yudhishthira Maharaj is glorified here. Why Lord is related to Yudhishthira Maharaj, why he appears in the family, which is glorious. And as we can see, Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha, Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. And here Kunti Devi is glorifying the devotees of the Lord. Devaki, Yashoda, Maharaj Yadu, Nanda Maharaj, and everybody. So the example here of sandalwood tree is very apt, very appropriate. It serves several purposes as for both material and on both spiritual and material platforms. And that's why Kunti Maharani is giving a very beautiful, poetic example of you appear in his family as sandalwood appears in Malaya Hills. Very poetic example she's giving, which has a lot of depth, a lot of meaning. So you can see her very sharp intellect, how she uses the right examples in her prayers. And as Prabhupada says that trees can grow anywhere, anywhere and everywhere. Yet because the sandalwood trees grow mostly in the area of Malaya Hills, the name sandalwood and the Malaya Hills are interrelated. Malaya Chandan, that's what Kunti Maharani is giving here. So we can see, if we just meditate on what she's telling here, that she's giving the right example. She's glorifying the devotees. She's glorifying the Lord. She's extending her prayers. And in that prayer, her mood is of complete surrender, total surrender. And later on, I think as prayers progress further, she says that just I pray to you that cut all the knots of attachment. It will come later. We won't discuss that now. Otherwise, I will be encroaching in some other area. So this also tells us that Malaysia is not a new name. Queen Kunti is talking about the same land, what it is or it was famous for. for several thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And this must be a prominent feature of those hills. So how careful we should be to look after the resources given by the Lord. Whatever He has created has a purpose, as we say, and it has a complete purpose. The verses from the Sri Shopnishad say that Om Purnamidam Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate. So whatever He creates, there is a completeness in that. There is a reason behind it. As long as it has the spiritual connection. If there is a material connection, we will make it we'll make a complication. We'll make a problem out of it. So that is one lesson from this verse. And the second very, very important lesson we should learn from this is, if our activities are spiritual and beneficial to everyone, our future generations will be blessed with, and great personalities may appear in our family. When the great personality appears in the family, we receive the blessings. And if our behavior is perfect, and if the great personalities, here in this particular case, Lord Himself, the Supreme Lord, appeared in the family of Maharaj Yadu. Yeah, and we can see that throughout Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord has appeared in several other families, and His great devotees have appeared. So if great devotees appear in our family in future generations, then we receive those blessings, and because they have a capacity to liberate several generations, earlier and future generations. So that's the responsibility in this human birth for all of us, and we should be following that. Otherwise, we may be responsible for further degradation in this animalistic society. So few verses I thought of bringing to this reference. We will quickly read that. I think we are almost there, 7 minutes left for 9 o'clock. So first one is this I thought of. Yasminidam sadatmamaya vibhati. We won't chant that verse now. We'll just check the, I'll give the background and we'll discuss that very quickly. Those 3 verses. When Maharaj Prithu met Sanat Kumar, and Sanat Kumar gave the instructions to Maharaj Prithu, and those are the 3 verses related to that. It is very much related to what we are discussing today, so I thought of just discussing it in here for a few minutes. You see, Sanat Kumar says that the Supreme Personality of Godhead manifests Himself as one with the cause and effect within this body, but one who has transcended the illusory energy by deliberate consideration, which clears the misconception of a snake for a rope, can understand that the Paramatma is eternally transcendental to the material creation and situated in pure internal energy. Thus the Lord is transcendental to all material contamination. Unto Him only must one surrender. The next verse is a very beautiful prayer. Yatpada pankaja palasha vilasa bhaktya karmashayam grahitamut grathayanti santaha tadvanna riktamatayo yatayo piruddha stroto ganastamaranam bhajavasudevam. Very, very beautiful, very poetic prayer. So here he's saying that the devotees who are always engaged in the service of the toes of the lotus feet of the Lord can very easily overcome hard-knotted desires for fruitive activities. Because this is very difficult, the non-devotees, the jnanis and yogis, although trying to stop the waves of sense gratification, cannot do so. Therefore, you are advised to engage in devotional service of Krishna, the son of Vasudeva. Very important instruction. And the next verse after that, he's saying, Kricho Mahani Bhavarna mohoplavesham shadvargana krama sukhena titirshyanti Tattvam Harer Bhagavato Bhajaniya Mangrim Krutvodupam Vyasanamuttara Dustaranam. The ocean of nescience is very difficult to cross because it is infested with many dangerous sharks. Although those who are non-devotees undergo severe austerities and penances to cross that ocean, we recommend that you simply take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, which are like boats for crossing the ocean. Although the ocean is difficult to cross, by taking shelter of his lotus feet, you will overcome all the dangers. Is that very similar to Padam Padam Mayat Vipadam Natisham Samashritaya Padapallavaplam. So this is a very similar instruction he's giving. Then this is an important verse where Lord says that Ajopi Sanya Vyayatma Bhutanam Ishwaropi San Prakritim Swamadhishtaya Sambhavamya Mamaya. Although I am unborn and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of all living entities, I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. So when he is unborn, but when he appears as he is. And then in a third canto, Lord Brahma says that Tadvaidam Bhuna Mangala Mangalaya. So we should worship any form of the Lord as a complete form of the Lord with all the facilities we have. So when we are worshipping Radha Gokulananda or Radha Landanishwar, our dedication should be with all the facilities we have. We should not hold anything back. That's what the creator of this universe, Lord Brahma himself, is saying. 9:11, Lord is telling this Avajananti Mamura Manusim Tanamashritam Param Bhavamajananto Mamahuta Maheshwaram. Fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature as the supreme Lord of all that be. So that's what I think. We have only 2 or 3 minutes left. We'll stop here. Are there any questions or any comments or any additions? Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Prabhu, in today's purport, I don't know much about this Maharaj Nal. So would you please elaborate about that Maharaj? Because he is a pious king.
Sure. Yeah. There was a king who was very handsome, very, very nice body he had, and he was a very pious king. He had a lot of virtues. He was very chivalrous, and he had a very great qualities. He was very eloquent in his speech and a lot of things. And for some reason there was some kind of machination, and then his all kingdom was very happy, and then he was married to, if I'm not wrong, he was married to a daughter of Shukracharya called Damayanti. So that's the famous story of Nala and Damayanti.
Oh, okay.
And then he got killed, and or some the ashes were there, and then Shukracharya has a Sanjeevani mantra. He can revive the dead and bring the body back. So that's what he gave it to his daughter, and that's the story. In our childhood, my grandmother used to tell such stories, so that's what I remember.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard about Nal Damayanti story a little bit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So is that one, that Nal, yeah.
Nal and Damayanti.
Okay.
Any other question or comment? Oh, Palika Mataji ki jai. She's here, my mother.
Hare Krishna, Prayagraj. Prabhu, thank you very much for your wonderful class. You have elaborated the whole verse so nicely. with your deep knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam and all the other scriptures. So we really appreciate your input. And then I was also looking back at my childhood, when you mentioned about your mother, where she was born, and everything was concentrated on the on Krishna.
Yes.
So then eventually, as the Kali Yuga, expand, and everybody look at become selfish actually.
Yeah.
That's what's happening now, and we are so fortunate that we have Srila Prabhupada coming into the West and reawaken that consciousness which we would have the beginning of our childhood. I mean, I was initiated very young, 19 years old, but that wasn't in Krishna parampara. And it was actually, later on I came to know that's called Mayavadi. It was the Ramakrishna mission. And actually when I met my Guru Maharaj and I said, how can I advance myself to Krishna consciousness? I said, chant 16 rounds. And then I said, I was initiated in Ramakrishna mission. And then he said, yes, he didn't criticize or anything. He didn't say Mayavadi, but all he said that you need to raise yourself above the social structure.
He's a sadhu.
It was so wonderful. But later on I came to know this. So we are I'm so grateful to Srila Prabhupada and all of you following so nicely. And so wonderful to join the class and listening, and how we can really develop our Krishna consciousness and help others also. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your encouraging words. I'm just repeating like a parrot.
No, you have. I mean, I know you're so knowledgeable with that. We serve together. That's what we used to talk about our Krishna consciousness, and it's so nice. Thank you so much. Thank you.
That's your motherly love, Mataji. Thank you. So if there are no questions or no comments or no additions, then we will stop here. Thank you, everybody. As I was talking, thank you. We are all, even if I miss my childhood family, but this family is very, very important. It's a bigger family, extended family. So you're giving me the opportunity to discuss Srimad Bhagavatam and Krishna Katha. So I'm really grateful to all of you for the purification. Thank you very much.
कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. Hare Krishna. Thank you,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji, for nice.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.